You drift across waters that remember everything, where the sea holds stories deeper than its darkest trenches. Tonight, the moon casts silver threads across waves that whisper of legends, and you find yourself aboard a ship that creaks with the weight of memory. The wooden deck beneath your feet has been worn smooth by countless footsteps, each plank bearing witness to dreams that sailed these endless blues. The gentle rocking motion lulls you into a state between waking and dreaming, where the boundaries of time grow soft like morning mist. You lean against the ship's railing, feeling the salt-kissed breeze caress your face, carrying with it tales from distant islands and forgotten shores. In this moment, suspended between sea and sky, you begin to understand that strength is not always what it appears to be. Your fingers trace the weathered wood of the railing, and you wonder about the hands that gripped this same spot before yours. The ocean stretches endlessly in all directions, a vast tapestry of blue that has cradled pirates and dreamers for generations. Stars emerge, one by one in the darkening sky, each one a distant beacon calling to those brave enough to chase horizons. The ship's sails flutter softly in the evening breeze, their white canvas catching starlight like captured dreams. You close your eyes and listen to the symphony of the sea, waves lapping against the hull, ropes creaking in the rigging, the distant cry of seabirds following their ancient migration paths. This is the world where legends are born, where ordinary people become extraordinary through the simple act of believing in something greater than themselves. You think of stories told in taverns and around campfires, tales of a man who stood taller than mountains and whose laughter could calm storms. They called him the strongest man in the world. But as you drift through this peaceful night, you begin to suspect that his true strength lay not in the force of his fists, but in something far more profound and beautiful. The ship continues its gentle journey through the night, carrying you toward understanding. As the stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, you feel the presence of countless souls who have sailed these waters before, their dreams and aspirations woven into the very fabric of the sea itself. The ocean remembers every laugh, every tear, every moment of triumph and loss that has played out upon its surface. As the night deepens, you sense that you are not merely a passenger on this vessel, but a participant in an ancient ritual of discovery. The sea is preparing to share its secrets with you, to unveil the truth about strength and family, about dreams that transcend individual ambition and touch the hearts of all who hear them. You are ready to listen, ready to learn what it truly means to be strong. Dawn breaks slowly over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of coral and gold that reflect in the calm waters around your ship. You watch the sun emerge from its nightly rest, feeling the warmth touch your skin as gentle as a father's embrace. The transition from night to day reminds you of stories you've heard about a man whose presence could bring light to the darkest moments, whose very existence was a beacon of hope for those who had lost their way. The ship has brought you to an island shrouded in morning mist, where palm trees sway lazily in the tropical breeze. You find yourself walking along a pristine beach, your feet sinking into sand so white it seems to glow with its own inner light. The waves roll in with a rhythmic patience, each one carrying whispers of the past to your ears. You discover the remnants of an old camp hidden among the trees, a circle of stones where a fire once burned, logs arranged in a careful semicircle that speaks of many nights spent in companionship. Your hands brush against the smooth stone, and you can almost feel the warmth of long extinguished flames, can almost hear the voices that once shared stories and dreams around this humble gathering place. The air here carries a different quality, thick with memory and the lingering presence of powerful souls. You close your eyes and let the tropical breeze wash over you, carrying scents of exotic flowers and the salt of the sea. In this tranquil moment, you begin to understand that true strength is not about standing alone against the world, but about creating spaces where others can find rest and belonging. A gentle rustling in the undergrowth draws your attention, and you turn to see a small shrine tucked beneath the canopy of a massive tree. The shrine is simple, constructed from driftwood and decorated with shells and small offerings left by grateful visitors. Flowers, now dried and faded, speak of recent pilgrims who came to pay their respects to something greater than themselves. You approach the shrine with reverence, feeling the weight of accumulated prayers and hopes that seem to emanate from its humble structure. A name is carved into the driftwood, weathered by salt air and time, but still clearly visible. Your fingers trace the letters slowly, and you feel a connection to something vast and enduring, something that transcends the physical boundaries of life and death. The morning sun climbs higher, filtering through the leaves and creating patterns of light and shadow that dance across the forest floor. You sit beside the shrine, allowing the peaceful atmosphere to envelop you completely. Here, in this sacred space created by devotion and memory, you begin to understand that the strongest among us are those who give others reason to believe in tomorrow. Birds call from the treetops, their songs weaving together in a natural harmony that speaks of cycles continuing long after individual voices fall silent. You realize that strength, real strength, is not about the ability to break things, but about the capacity to build them, to build families, to build hope, to build legacies that outlast any single lifetime. Your journey continues as the ship carries you away from the Shrine Island, deeper into waters where legends were born. The sea today is mirror calm, reflecting the azure sky so perfectly that you feel suspended between two infinite expanses of blue. You stand at the bow, watching schools of fish dart beneath the crystal clear surface, their silver scales catching sunlight like scattered coins from some underwater treasure. The ship's crew moves with quiet efficiency around you, each person absorbed in their tasks, but connected by invisible threads of shared purpose. You observe how they work together without need for commands or harsh words, each understanding their role in the greater whole. Their movements are choreographed by years of sailing together, a dance of cooperation that speaks to something deeper than mere professional obligation. As the day progresses, you find yourself in conversation with an elderly sailor whose weathered hands speak of decades spent at sea. His eyes hold depths that rival the ocean itself, and when he speaks of his early days as a pirate, his voice carries the cadence of waves against distant shores. He tells you stories of crews that were more than simple partnerships, of bonds forged in adventure and strengthened through adversity. The sea teaches you, he says, his gnarled fingers working rope with practiced ease, that no one sails alone for long. Even the strongest ship needs a crew, and even the mightiest captain needs a family. His words carry the weight of experience, earned through storms weathered and horizons chased across countless miles of open water. You listen as he describes encounters with legendary figures, men and women whose names have become synonymous with the golden age of piracy. But when he speaks of the one they called the strongest man in the world, his voice takes on a different quality, softer, more reverent, touched with something that might be called love. He wasn't the strongest because he could level islands, the old sailor explains, his eyes distant with memory. He was strongest because he made every one of his children believe they could achieve the impossible. When you're part of his family, you don't just dream bigger, you become bigger. in all the ways that matter. The afternoon sun casts long shadows across the deck as the sailor continues his stories, painting pictures of a man whose laughter could be heard across entire fleets, whose presence transformed hardened pirates into something approaching saints. You begin to understand that strength, in its truest form, is not about what you can destroy, but about what you can inspire others to create. As evening approaches, you watch the sailor return to his duties, moving with the careful grace of someone who has learned to work with the sea rather than against it. The lessons he has shared settle into your heart like seeds planted in fertile soil, ready to grow into understanding that will reshape how you see the world and your place within it. The ship continues its gentle progress through waters that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires, carrying you toward revelations that wait like hidden treasures in the depths of memory and dream. Night falls like a soft blanket across the ocean, and you find yourself in the ship's galley, where the warm glow of lanterns creates a pocket of comfort against the vast darkness outside. The cook, a round-faced woman with hands that seem to hold magic, works at her stove with movements that speak of years spent nourishing others. The aroma of her cooking fills the air, rich stews and fresh bread that make the galley feel like the heart of a home rather than just another room on a ship. You watch her work, noting how she tastes each dish with the concentration of an artist perfecting a masterpiece. When she notices your observation, she smiles and invites you to help, placing a wooden spoon in your hands and guiding you through the simple ritual of stirring soup. Her touch is gentle but firm, teaching without words the importance of patience and care in even the smallest tasks. Food is love made visible, she tells you as you work together, her voice carrying the warmth of someone who has spent a lifetime caring for others. When you cook for someone, you're not just filling their belly, you're telling them they matter, that they deserve care and attention. She ladles soup into bowls with practiced precision, each portion crafted with equal devotion. As crew members begin to gather for the evening meal, you see how the galley transforms into something greater than the sum of its parts. Conversations flow like gentle currents. Stories are shared between bites of perfectly seasoned food, and laughter bubbles up spontaneously from the gathered sailors. You realize you are witnessing something sacred, the daily miracle of strangers choosing to become family. The cook tells you about other galleys she has known, other crews she has fed across her long career at sea. She speaks of a ship where meals were celebrations that could last for hours, where the captain's appetite for food was matched only by his hunger for family. Her eyes grow misty as she describes preparing feasts for hundreds, watching as hardened pirates dissolved into grateful children around tables, groaning under the weight of abundance. He understood, she says, setting down her ladle and looking directly at you. That strength isn't just about what you can take, it's about what you can give. Every meal I cooked for his crew was a gift returned tenfold in loyalty and love. Her words carry the authority of someone who has seen empires built not on fear or force, but on the simple act of caring for others. You help serve the evening meal, moving between tables with bowls of soup and plates of bread still warm from the oven. Each crew member you serve responds with genuine gratitude, their faces lighting up at the sight of food prepared with love. You begin to understand how strength multiplies when it is used to nourish rather than destroy, how power becomes infinite when it is shared rather than hoarded. As the meal winds down and crew members begin to disperse to their evening duties, you remain in the galley, helping the cook clean up while she hums old sea shanties under her breath. The simple domesticity of washing dishes and wiping tables feels profound in its ordinariness, a reminder that the greatest victories are often won in kitchens and around dinner tables, where hearts are fed as surely as stomachs. The night deepens outside, but within the galley's warm embrace, you feel the presence of something eternal, the unbreakable bond between those who care for each other, the strength that comes not from individual prowess, but from collective love. The next morning brings you to an island unlike any you have seen before, where massive trees stretch toward the sky like the pillars of some ancient cathedral. Your feet touch the dock with a soft thud, and immediately you feel the unique energy of this place, something that speaks of history and power, of dreams realized and legends born. The air here is thick with the scent of tropical flowers and the underlying musk of a jungle that has grown wild and free for countless generations. You follow a winding path that leads into the heart of the island, where the canopy grows so thick that the sunlight filters down in scattered beams, creating a natural stained glass window overhead. The sounds of civilization fade behind you, replaced by the gentle symphony of nature, bird calls, rustling leaves, the distant splash of hidden waterfalls that sing their eternal songs to anyone willing to listen. The path brings you to a clearing where massive stone monuments rise from the earth like the bones of sleeping giants. These are not graves in any traditional sense, but celebrations carved in stone, tributes to lives that burned so brightly they continue to illuminate the world long after their flames have been extinguished. You move between the monuments with reverence, reading names and dates that span generations of adventure and discovery. At the center of the clearing stands the largest monument of all, its surface polished smooth by countless hands that have come to pay their respects. The craftsmanship speaks of devotion that transcends mere duty. Every line and curve has been carved with love, every detail perfected by artisans who understood they were creating something that would outlast empires. You place your hand against the cool stone and feel the pulse of something that might be called immortality. Around the base of the monument, offerings have been left by pilgrims from across the world, flowers that have been refreshed recently, bottles of sake still sealed with wax, small trinkets and personal items that represent individual stories of inspiration and gratitude. Each offering tells a story of someone whose life was touched by greatness, whose dreams were given permission to flourish by example and encouragement. You sit in the shade of the monument and close your eyes, letting the peaceful atmosphere of the clearing wash over you. In this sacred space, you begin to understand that true monuments are not built of stone and metal, but of the lives that continue to be shaped by the memory of those who showed us what it means to live with purpose and love. The strongest among us leave behind not conquests, but communities. A gentle breeze stirs the leaves overhead, and for a moment you could swear you hear something that might be laughter, warm and encompassing, the kind of sound that makes strangers feel like family and family feel invincible. The monument before you seems to pulse with warmth, as if the stone itself has been imbued with the spirit of the man it commemorates. As afternoon shadows begin to lengthen across the clearing, you rise and prepare to continue your journey, but not before adding your own small offering to the collection around the monument's base. A single flower picked from the path, a humble tribute that carries with it all the understanding you have gained about what it truly means to be strong. Your ship sails into evening waters, painted gold by the setting sun, and you find yourself drawn to the stern, where a small group of crew members has gathered to watch the day's final performance. The sky transforms into a canvas of orange and pink, clouds stretched like brush strokes across the heavens, while the sea reflects every color with mirror-like perfection. In moments like these, you understand why people choose to spend their lives chasing horizons. Among the gathered crew, you notice a young sailor whose eyes hold the bright intensity of someone just beginning their journey toward their dreams. She speaks with animated gestures about islands she hopes to visit, treasures she dreams of finding, adventures that await beyond the next sunrise. Her enthusiasm is infectious, filling the small gathering with energy that rivals the spectacular sunset unfolding before you. An older crew member, his beard streaked with silver, listens to her dreams with the patient smile of someone who has seen many young sailors begin their journeys. When she pauses in her excited planning, he speaks softly about dreams he once chased, about the difference between seeking treasure and finding it, about how the greatest discoveries are often the ones you never knew you were looking for. I once knew a captain, he says, his voice carrying easily over the gentle sound of waves against the hull, who collected dreams instead of gold. His ship was filled with people who had given up on their ambitions, who had let the world convince them that hoping was foolish. But he had this way of looking at you that made you remember who you wanted to become. You listen as he describes how this captain would take on crew members that other ships rejected, the old, the injured, the ones carrying pasts too heavy for ordinary vessels to bear. But under his command, these forgotten souls would rediscover their strength, would remember that every person carries within them the capacity for greatness that transcends individual limitations. He called us his children, the old sailor continues, his eyes growing distant with memory, and for the first time in my life, I understood what it meant to belong to something bigger than myself. Not just bigger in terms of power or influence, but bigger in terms of love, of purpose, of the belief that we could make the world a little more beautiful just by being our best selves. The young sailor asks, "What happened to this legendary captain?" And the old man's smile grows both sadder and brighter at the same time. "He gave us everything he had," he says simply, "including the courage to continue his work long after he was gone. The strongest among us don't leave behind empty spaces. They leave behind people who are better than they ever thought they could be." As full darkness settles over the ocean, stars begin to emerge one by one, each point of light a reminder that even in the vastest emptiness, beauty and guidance can always be found. The crew disperses slowly, returning to their duties with renewed purpose, carrying with them the reminder that their work is part of something greater than simple survival. You remain at the stern, watching the ship's wake disappear into the darkness behind you, while contemplating the strange alchemy that transforms individual dreams into collective strength, that turns a random gathering of people into a family capable of changing the world. Dawn finds you in the ship's library, a cozy space lined with books and charts that speak of countless voyages and accumulated wisdom. The morning light filters through small portholes, creating warm pools of illumination where dust motes dance like tiny spirits. You run your fingers along the spines of leather-bound volumes, each one containing knowledge gathered from the far corners of the world. A ship's navigator, her hair streaked with premature gray from years of studying star charts under lamplight, works at a large table covered with maps and instruments. Her movements are precise and deliberate, each calculation checked and rechecked with the care of someone who understands that lives depend on her accuracy. When she notices your interest, she invites you to join her, spreading out a chart that shows waters you have never seen. Every map tells a story, she explains, her finger tracing routes across the parchment. But the most important stories are the ones that can't be drawn with ink and compass. The sea teaches you that there are currents of emotion and loyalty that are stronger than any wind, currents that can carry ships safely through storms that would destroy vessels guided only by instruments. She tells you about following a fleet whose formation moved like a living thing across the ocean, each ship positioned not by tactical advantage, but by bonds of affection and trust. The flagship at the center didn't command through fear or force, but through the gravitational pull of love so strong that other vessels couldn't help but orbit around it, like planets around a benevolent sun. The captain of that fleet understood navigation in ways that go beyond charts and stars. She continues, rolling out another map that shows not islands and currents, but something far more complex and beautiful. He could read the invisible currents of human nature, could chart courses through emotional storms that would have left other captains hopelessly lost. You study the unusual chart, noting how it maps, not physical geography, but the relationships between crew members, the invisible bonds that hold communities together across vast distances and through impossible challenges. It is a map of the heart, drawn by someone who understood that true navigation requires more than technical skill. It requires wisdom about what makes life worth living. The navigator shares stories of ports where this fleet was welcomed not as conquerors, but as family, where entire islands would celebrate their arrival with festivals that lasted for days. She describes how the captain would remember every name, every story, every small detail about the lives of people he had met, only briefly, creating connections that transformed casual encounters into lifelong bonds. He had this way of making you feel seen, she says, her voice soft with remembrance, like you were the most important person in the world when he was talking to you. And somehow, that feeling stayed with you, even after he moved on, like a compass that always pointed toward your best self. As the morning progresses, you help her update charts with new information gathered during your current voyage, adding details about currents and weather patterns that will help future travelers navigate these waters more safely. The work feels significant, part of an ongoing collaboration between generations of sailors who share their knowledge freely so that others might find their way home. The library grows warmer as the sun climbs higher, filling the space with golden light that transforms the accumulated wisdom around you into something approaching sacred. You realize you are surrounded by more than books and maps. You are surrounded by the distilled experience of countless souls who chose to explore rather than merely exist, who dared to dream of horizons beyond their immediate vision. The ship anchors in a secluded bay where the water is so clear you can see tropical fish swimming in colorful schools around coral formations that look like underwater gardens. You find yourself sharing a small boat with the ship's doctor, a gentle soul whose hands seem to carry healing in their very touch. She rows with smooth, economical strokes toward a small island where medicinal plants grow wild and free. The island is a living pharmacy where every flower and leaf seems to pulse with potential healing. Your companion moves through the vegetation with the confidence of someone who has spent years learning the language of plants, identifying beneficial herbs by scent and texture, with skills that border on the mystical. She teaches you to recognize healing plants by their subtle signs, showing you how nature provides remedies for almost every ailment if you know where to look. Medicine isn't just about curing sickness, she explains, as you help her gather roots and leaves, placing each specimen carefully in her collection bag. It's about understanding the whole person, their fears, their hopes, their place in the world. Sometimes the most powerful healing happens when someone simply feels seen and valued, when they know that their pain matters to someone else. She tells you about serving aboard a ship where the captain's presence was itself a form of medicine, where his ability to make each crew member feel valued and loved created an atmosphere where healing happened naturally. Injuries that should have taken weeks to mend would heal in days, not through supernatural means, but through the simple power of being surrounded by people who wanted nothing more than your well-being. He understood that the strongest medicine is hope, she continues, showing you how to prepare a tea from leaves that seem to glow with their own inner light. When people believe in their ability to recover, when they feel supported by a community that cares about them, their bodies remember how to heal themselves. Fear and isolation make us weak, but love and belonging make us nearly invincible. You spend the afternoon learning about plants that ease pain, herbs that promote restful sleep, and flowers that lift spirits and chase away melancholy. Each remedy comes with stories of how it has been used to help others, creating a connection between your hands and the hands of healers, stretching back through generations of compassionate care. As the sun begins to set, you help the doctor prepare her gathered medicines, grinding roots and stems with a mortar and pestle worn smooth by years of use. The repetitive motion becomes meditative, and you find yourself thinking about the difference between strength that breaks and strength that mends, between power that dominates and power that nurtures. The truly strong, the doctor says, as you work together, are those who use their abilities to help others grow rather than to prove their own superiority. Real strength multiplies when it's shared, becomes greater when it's used to lift others up rather than to tear them down. The evening air carries the scent of healing herbs and ocean spray, creating an atmosphere of peace that seems to emanate from the very earth beneath your feet. You realize you're learning not just about medicine, but about a way of being in the world that transforms every interaction into an opportunity for healing, every encounter into a chance to leave things better than you found them. As you row back to the ship under a canopy of emerging stars, your boat carrying precious cargo that will ease suffering and promote healing, you understand that the strongest among us are often those whose power is so gentle it's almost invisible, until you see the lives they touch blooming with renewed hope and possibility. Your final night aboard the ship finds you on deck under a sky blazing with more stars than you ever imagined possible. The ocean stretches in all directions like a vast mirror, reflecting the celestial display until it becomes impossible to tell where water ends and heaven begins. You feel suspended in space and time, cradled between infinities, while the gentle motion of the ship rocks you toward understanding. A storyteller has emerged from among the crew, an ancient woman whose voice carries the rhythm of waves and the wisdom of countless voyages. She speaks of legends that have passed from ship to ship across generations, tales that have grown more beautiful with each telling while maintaining their essential truth. Her audience gathers in a rough circle on the deck, faces illuminated by lantern light and starshine. She begins to weave a tale of the greatest pirate crew that ever sailed these waters, describing not their conquests or their treasures, but their transformation from a collection of individuals into something approaching divine. Her words paint pictures of men and women who discovered that their individual dreams were just fragments of a larger dream, pieces of a vision so vast and beautiful that pursuing it together made each of them more than they ever could have been alone. The captain of this crew, she says, her voice carrying easily across the water, was called the strongest man in the world, but his real strength lay not in his fists or his devil fruit power. His strength was in his ability to see the best in others, to call forth greatness from places where others saw only weakness or failure. You listen, as she describes how this captain would take on crew members that other ships considered liabilities, the injured, the aging, the ones carrying histories too painful for ordinary vessels to bear. But under his care, these forgotten souls would rediscover their purpose, would remember that every person carries within them the capacity for nobility that transcends their circumstances. The story unfolds like a flower blooming in slow motion, revealing layer after layer of meaning about what it means to be truly strong. She speaks of battles won not through violence, but through the simple act of refusing to let others face their struggles alone, of victories measured not in gold or territory, but in the number of people who learned to believe in themselves again. He called them his children, the storyteller continues, and in doing so, he created a family that spanned oceans and included thousands of souls who had never met, but were connected by invisible threads of love and loyalty. His strength became their strength, but more importantly, their strength became his, creating something that was infinitely greater than the sum of its parts. As the night deepens, the story reaches its climax, not in triumph, but in sacrifice. The storyteller's voice grows soft with reverence as she describes how the strongest man in the world chose to stand alone against overwhelming odds, not to prove his power, but to ensure that his children could continue their journey toward their dreams. True strength, she concludes, as shooting stars streak across the dark canvas above, is not about what you can destroy, but about what you can create. It's not about standing above others, but about lifting them up. The strongest among us are those who understand that real power lies in making others powerful, that real victory comes when everyone wins together. The circle of listeners disperses slowly, each person carrying with them a piece of the story that will reshape how they see themselves and their place in the world. You remain on deck, watching the stars wheel overhead while contemplating the strange alchemy that transforms individual dreams into collective strength, that turns strangers into family through the simple act of caring more about others' success than your own glory. Morning arrives with the gentleness of a whispered secret, painting the sky in shades of pearl and rose gold that seem to emanate from some hidden source of beauty deep within the world itself. You stand at the ship's bow, watching as a new island emerges from the mist, like a dream becoming reality. This final destination feels different from all the others, not just another stop on your journey, but the place where understanding will crystallize into wisdom, where all the lessons you have gathered will transform into something you can carry with you always. The island appears uninhabited at first glance, covered in lush vegetation that speaks of decades of growth undisturbed by human ambition. But as your small boat approaches the shore, you begin to notice subtle signs of habitation, paths worn smooth by gentle footsteps, gardens tended with love rather than necessity, structures built not to dominate the landscape, but to harmonize with it in perfect balance. You step onto a beach where the sand seems to glow with its own inner light, feeling immediately that this place exists outside the normal flow of time. Everything here moves with dreamlike slowness, as if the island itself understands that the most important transformations cannot be rushed. You follow a winding path through gardens where flowers bloom in impossible colors, where fruit trees offer their bounty freely to any who pass beneath their branches. The path leads to a simple structure built from driftwood and living vines, more grown than constructed, nestled against a hillside where a spring emerges from the earth to create a small pool of crystalline water. Beside this pool sits a figure you recognize instantly, though you have never seen him before. An old man whose presence fills the space around him with warmth and possibility, whose very existence seems to make the world more beautiful. He looks up as you approach, and his smile carries the accumulated wisdom of someone who has lived fully and loved deeply, who has learned the difference between strength that destroys and strength that creates. His eyes hold depths that rival the ocean itself, filled with kindness and understanding that makes you feel seen and valued in ways you have never experienced before. Welcome, he says, his voice carrying the gentle authority of waves against shore, of wind through sails, of all the natural forces that guide rather than compel. I've been waiting for you, though I suspect you didn't know you were looking for me. His laughter is warm and encompassing, the kind of sound that makes strangers feel like family and family feel invincible. You sit beside him by the pool, feeling immediately that this is where you were always meant to be, that every step of your journey has been leading to this moment of quiet revelation. Without words, you understand that this figure represents everything you have been learning about strength and family, about dreams that grow larger when they are shared rather than hoarded. The strongest among us, he says, his eyes twinkling with gentle humor, are often the ones who realize that true power lies not in what we can take, but in what we can give, not in standing above others, but in lifting them up until they can see horizons they never imagined possible. His words carry the weight of lived experience, earned through decades of choosing love over fear, generosity over selfishness. He speaks of children scattered across the seas, each one carrying a piece of his heart, each one stronger for having been loved unconditionally. He describes the strange mathematics of love, where division creates multiplication, where giving away power only makes you more powerful, where the more you share your strength, the stronger you become. As the day progresses, you find yourself sharing stories of your own journey, describing the people you have met and the lessons you have learned. He listens with complete attention, nodding at moments of understanding, laughing at stories of joy, his presence making every experience feel more meaningful simply by being witnessed with such genuine care. You understand now, he says, as evening approaches, that strength is not about what you can break, but about what you can build, not about conquering others, but about helping them conquer their own limitations. The strongest man in the world is the one who makes everyone around him feel like they could be the strongest too. As stars begin to emerge in the darkening sky, he stands and walks to the edge of the pool, where the spring water reflects the first points of celestial light. Remember this, he says, his voice carrying across the water like a blessing, that every person you meet is fighting battles you cannot see, carrying dreams that deserve encouragement, hoping for someone to believe in them when they cannot believe in themselves. You watch as he seems to merge with the starlight itself, becoming part of the eternal rhythm that connects all living things across the vast expanse of sea and sky. The pool grows still as glass, reflecting not just the stars above, but something deeper, the understanding that real strength lies in the connections we create, the love we share, the dreams we help others achieve. The island settles into peaceful slumber around you, the gentle sound of waves against shore mixing with the whisper of wind through leaves to create a lullaby that speaks of cycles continuing long after individual voices fall silent. You close your eyes and feel the presence of countless souls who have sailed these waters before you, their dreams and aspirations woven into the very fabric of the sea itself. In this moment of perfect understanding, you realize that you carry within yourself the capacity to be the strongest person in any room, not through force or intimidation, but through the simple act of loving others so completely that they remember their own capacity for greatness. The strongest man in the world lives not in any single person, but in every act of kindness, every moment of encouragement, every choice to build rather than destroy. The stars wheel overhead in their eternal dance, and the sea whispers its ancient songs to the shore, carrying with it the dreams of all who have dared to chase horizons beyond their immediate vision. In the gentle darkness, you feel yourself becoming part of something larger and more beautiful than you ever imagined possible. A family that spans oceans and includes all who choose love over fear, hope over despair, dreams over limitations. The night settles around you like a soft embrace, carrying you toward sleep and dreams where understanding continues to grow and transform, where the lessons of your journey crystallize into wisdom that will guide you through all the adventures yet to come. The strongest man in the world sleeps peacefully beneath the stars, dreaming of children who sail toward their own horizons, carrying his love like lanterns to light their way through whatever storms may come. End of narrative.